Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into a massive, frankly, mind-blowing shift that's transforming the software and crypto landscapes right before our very eyes. We are rapidly moving away from an era of human-typed code and entering the era of fully autonomous systems. And honestly, the pace of this evolution, it's absolutely staggering. Right out of the gate, I've got to hook you with this number, $300,000. According to early adopter reports circulating since OpenAI's GPT 5.5 launch in April 2026, startups using the new Codex coding agent are saving up to $300,000 a year in contractor fees. They're quite literally replacing entire junior development cycles with multi-hour AI sessions. This economic shockwave is actively redirecting capital across the entire tech and crypto ecosystem.
Section 1. The Autonomous Coding Revolution.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're witnessing a massive developer migration right now, but developers aren't just blindly picking one tool and abandoning the rest. They're heavily optimizing. OpenAI's Codex completely dominates backend, infrastructure, and systems code. But Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.7, that's still the clear winner when it comes to front-end, design, and UI nuance. Serious engineering and crypto teams are actually keeping both subscriptions active. They route the heavy, autonomous backend logic over to Codex, and then hand off all the visual, design-heavy tasks to Claude.
Section 2. The magic of the /goal commands.
So the big headline upgrade in the Codex release is the /goal command. When developers use this in its full auto mode, Codex enters a continuous loop made up of 4 steps: plan, act, test, and review. You basically just give it a persistent, high-level objective, something like, hey, build a working order book matching engine with tests, and it just goes to work. These multi-hour autonomous agentic loops run entirely on their own, without waiting for human prompting after every single little action. Let's look a little closer at what's actually happening inside that loop. This is an agentic system that essentially holds the keys to the developer environment. It can create and edit files, and it can run real shell commands to install its own dependencies. But the most powerful feature? The self-correction. If Codex runs your test suite and 3 tests fail, it doesn't stop and ask you what to do. Actually, it just reads its own error logs, patches the code, and runs the tests again until it succeeds and the feature ships. It even generates the documentation for the project it just built. Section 3. Coding from your phone. Yes, you can literally leave the laptop at home now. OpenAI crammed a fully featured Codex experience right into the standard ChatGPT mobile app for iOS and Android. You can monitor running tasks, review code diffs, approve commands, and redirect the agent entirely from your phone. Just picture the juxtaposition here. You've got this highly sophisticated AI agent executing complex back-end refactors on a remote server somewhere, and you're just casually sipping a matcha at a coffee shop, swiping to approve its decisions. No way we could have imagined that 5 years ago. Section 4. AI Code Security Risks. All right, let's do an objective reality check on the hidden dangers of moving this fast. To understand this, we need to look at a study from the security firm IOActive. They analyzed over 19,000 code samples generated by AI. And the takeaway? Well, while AI writes code incredibly fast, the average security score across all tested configurations was only 58.9%. Even more concerning is that fully vulnerable code was generated nearly a third of the time when models were just given natural, non-security-focused prompts. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how much the actual tooling matters. If you look at the base OpenAI GPT-4o mini model accessed via a raw API, it scored a dismal 54.1% on security. However, when developers use the full Codex app with its engineered wrappers and a specific security skill enabled, that score jumps all the way up to 83.8%. That is a massive, nearly 30-point security gap. It absolutely proves that raw AI output just isn't enough on its own. The guardrails and applications built around the AI are what actually keeps systems safe. And this leads us to a broader, kind of scary systemic issue known as supply chain centralization. Think about it. If a huge portion of new code is being written by one single model from one single provider, a subtle hallucination or vulnerability from that model can instantly propagate across the entire software ecosystem. It spreads like wildfire. This is exactly why independent human audits remain absolutely mandatory. If you're deploying crypto smart contracts that handle real user funds, you simply cannot deploy agent-generated code without a human thoroughly verifying its security first. Section 5. What's in it for you? So the crucial point is how you, as an everyday investor or common user, can actually gain exposure to this massive shift without writing a single line of code yourself. Because these Codex sessions run for hours on end, they're burning massive, massive amounts of compute power. We're seeing a huge surge in demand for AI infrastructure. We're talking decentralized compute networks, on-chain agent platforms, and heavy GPU and storage infrastructure. As developer productivity jumps off the charts, it's the underlying infrastructure powering it all that's capturing that immense value. Furthermore, the barrier to entry for actually building things has totally collapsed for non-developers. Look at this quote about retail trading. A trader who understands market microstructure but not Python idioms can now ship a working bot. This is huge. If you have domain knowledge, if you deeply understand a market, or if you just have a killer idea for a business tool, you no longer need to shell out cash for a dedicated engineering hire. You just fire up the /goal command, scaffold out your logic, connect some APIs, and deploy your idea in a single afternoon. We're literally living through a moment where the cost of translating an idea into working software is plummeting toward zero, and you can orchestrate the whole shebang while grabbing a coffee. The infrastructure is there, the agents are waiting, and the old bottlenecks, they're completely gone. Which leaves us with one final profound question for you to consider today. What will you build now that the barrier to entry is gone? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep learning.